Oh, hi there. This is Chandra Easton here from StarAstrologyHealing.com, Living in Light. Just giving you a bit of an update on what the planets are doing as they're moving around in the heavens during March. I see the chart that I've got here. I've just cast it for the 1st of March. Don't worry about the time because that's not really relevant with what I'm talking about. And you may notice that I've cast it for Canberra. So the first thing I want to point out is that there are 4 planets in Pisces in that first week of March, and the most important one is Neptune, because Neptune has that exoteric connection to Pisces. It's the traditional, the ordinary ruler. And the first thing I notice is that Neptune's forming a trine back to the past life point. So what happens with something like that is that it's easy for us to fall back into past habits or past patterns. This is humanity I'm talking about. And it may well be that there are some aspects of humanity who just want to go back to the way things have been, the way their lives have been, the way the society's been. They think that's simpler, that's easier, or they just want to run for cover. And I can't tell whether this is individuals or governments or particular nation states, but I can see by that trine that there would be a significant amount of humanity that would just fall back. It's the path of least resistance. Yes, there are also 3 planets in Capricorn. Pluto's sitting here towards the end of Capricorn. It'll be there for about another year in Capricorn. And there are currently, as of the 1st of March, a couple of planets, Venus and Mars also in Capricorn. So I'm hoping that there are some creative solutions to the way forward on a government level, on a personal level, on a national level. I hope that what we're not going to see is creative skullduggery from bureaucracies that want to maintain power and control. The Pluto across to the North Node in Taurus tells me that there will be a significant amount of people who are prepared to look forward, not looking back, recognising that life as we knew it, prior to 2020, it's over and done and we can't go back to it. And the way forward is through effective use of resources. That's the Taurus energy and the Capricorn. So wise long-range planning to manage our time and our resources, where and how we work, where and with whom we bank, where and how we spend our money, those kinds of things. Okay, there are also a couple of planets that stay in Aquarius. This is Mercury and Saturn sitting very, very close together, and this Mercury-Saturn conjunction, 2-degree conjunction in Aquarius, has got a great deal to do with big pharma. It's got a great deal to do with big tech. It's a great deal to do with the organisational structures of new communities that are forming. And we need to make decisions about where we stand with regard to all these things. Do we invest our money with the big banks? Do we blithely buy into the Internet of Things and big tech? Do we hand over our power to the governments, to big pharma, to make inoculations, things that are supposedly for our health but not necessarily for our best health? Or do we take matters into our own hands and decide where we'd like to be in the long range, maybe 7 years ahead, and how we're going to get there, and what's the community that we're networked and connected to make that transition? Saturn's been square to Mercury for a while, and it's really running away now. It's a waning square. It's almost out. It's about a 6-degree square now, but Mercury's still square Uranus, so there are still hidden twists and turns that are coming up around change, which jobs are viable, who can pay the rent, who can pay the school fees, who can afford the cost of living, all of that. Okay, I'm going to close this for a second and I'll open it up in the way of moving it. And I'm going to move it forward, but before I move it forward a week, I'll just point out to you that this Mercury-Saturn conjunction will slowly throughout the month be getting closer to the nodal axis of 25 Scorpio and 26 actually, 26 Scorpio and 26 Taurus. If you'd like to know more about what that nodal axis means, I refer you to the teachings on From Darkness to Light. I think it's the third talk that I gave about the timing of the transiting nodes through Scorpio. But anyway, I digress. And so, of course, these are very interesting. The further along we move in March, the closer become both Mercury and Saturn to these numbers. So early in March, they're not there at all. But let's just see what happens as we move it along. So I've moved it forward a week, and all of a sudden Mercury is sitting at 27 degrees Aquarius, and it's been forming a T-square to the nodal axis, and probably starting around about the 5th of March and going through till, I don't know, could be the 10th or the 11th, something like that. So there's quite a crossroads coming up for many people, and it must be many people, it must be groups, because we're talking about the South Node, which is groups and humanity en masse, and it's to do with our karma. And it's in the degrees, been in the degrees of separation, still in the degrees of separation, which are 23.5 to 26.6. So we have to choose, what do we separate from? The old society, the old governance structures that don't work, the old ways of putting our head in the sand. What is it that we've split from? Have we previously split from our spiritual reality and we need to wake up to that? Have we split from being in charge of our money? Is everything gone onto the digital world? Have we lost control of our social media accounts? Are they being hacked? Are we being followed or tracked through the digital media? And all of these questions are extremely relevant because we have the information technology that is attempting to control, that's the T-square, the masses, that's the nodal axis. It's a form of cruelty. It's removal of liberty. Some people are very happy to have everything in the cloud and everything digital and everything online, but I guess the question to ask is, what price freedom? What price the capacity to have the free will of the choices that you make in your hand, rather than in the hands of the big tech companies or the whoever it is who decides to hack your bank account, or however it is the government decides to use your digital signature against you. We know that technology and science, think medical science here, think big pharma, is being used against the people because we've got a T-square here. And this T says, I think it's there for a few months. It's at least until the end of May. Mercury, of course, will move forward on, but Saturn remains square the nodes for a couple of months and probably still in orb in June. And so we've got quite a crossroads coming up in terms of how much will humanity take. What price freedom? We have been told that, well, there's a pandemic and there's a dreadful invisible virus and the government will protect you, but the price you must pay is to be tracked and traced. And the next step, and I call that step one or stage one of the rollout of change, where the mega corporations are attempting to move humanity into a technocratic world and out of a democratic world, at least in the first world countries. And we've seen difficulty with the governments being able to hear or indeed allow the people to protest or to march or to have freedom of speech. The other thing that has happened with the Saturn Mercury is that we've had the media has been hamstrung and gagged or paid off so that they are no longer reporting in a fair manner. Certainly in Australia that's been the case. I don't know about other countries, but in Australia the media have moved a long way away from being equitable and fair and just and balanced and seeing both sides of the equation. Okay, second week of March, we still have the 4 planets in Pisces, and again we still have the option of sliding back, putting our heads in the sand back to old patterns that we think are safe but actually really are not, or we have more and more opportunities for reaching out, creating new networks, anchoring ourselves quite firmly in societies where we respect each other, we respect individual freedoms, we respect the empowerment of the choices that people make. They could be medical choices, financial choices, schooling choices. But humanity are really moving to make their choices forwards into sustainable future, where we value the earth and nature and the seasons and we use money wisely, or backwards into the cesspool of control and blindness and lies and cruelty. Okay, meanwhile we now have 4 planets in Aquarius. Venus and Mars have moved forward in Aquarius, so there will be, wonderful technological advances, AI in people's lives. There no doubt will be more of the attempt to get the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of satellites up, and the Starlink expression. So some parts of the Aquarian stellium is the space program. But I ask you to ask yourself, who benefits from the space program? Who benefits from the rollout of boosters? Who benefits from cash being removed and the digital economy rolling on? And I think the answer, well, from my perspective, the answer is big corporations. It's Big Brother, it's big technology, it's big pharma, it's the big ag, it's the big banks, it's the technocracy that's benefiting. Are they lining their pockets? Questions to be asked. Let's move forward another week. And here we still have the 5 planets. We've got 5 now. Started out with 4 planets in Pisces. Now we've got 5 planets in Pisces. So increasingly, Pluto becomes very important in terms of the transformational way forward. We need to burn bridges of things that we've been attached to that are not useful, not helpful, for whatever reasons. Maybe it's an old job you've had, or a structure you've had, or a way of identifying yourself in the world, or a way of being as a parent. But a lot of things are just being washed away, and instead we have an opportunity to empower ourselves through living in right relationship with the earth. Yes, so that's the middle of March I'm talking about there, and you'll notice Saturn is now 20 degrees Aquarius, still approaching this T-square. The computer hasn't drawn it because it's only a transit chart, but it's a 4-degree square away from the nodes. Let's go forward one more week. One more week and Saturn's now 21 degrees, and now we have the T-square being set up between Mars and Venus, square Uranus. Some of the creative solutions that are being rolled out on behalf of humanity are not really for our own best interests. Some of them may be fantastic and fine. There may be wonderful innovations that are useful for the climate, or useful for the sharing of food, or useful for humanity, but there are others that are being used to sort of grab money and power. And I can see there's a money and a power and a data grab going on by these squares between Venus and Mars and Uranus. So I suggest to you that well before March you make sure you've got stockpiles of food, that you don't trust the banks with your money, that you remove yourself as much as possible from having your data mined through social media, that you take a big deep breath and reconnect back into nature. And of course, by the time we get to this is the 22nd of March, where the sun's moved into early Aries, we've hit the equinox, and I will do another talk on the equinox. But I can also see that the continued backsliding into the place of safety, places that are cruel. So what price freedom? What price independence? What price silence? Of course, astrologically we would say that the trines bring in useful talents and skills, but they're also, there's no growth that way. So it appears to me that unfortunately a large percentage of the human population will be sliding back to the safe, with the head under the doona, so to speak, and that another probably a smaller, but the elite group, let's call them the Venus-Mars-Saturn group, will be continuing the data mining and the plans for space and the plans to take control of our lives, and what do we call it, the social credit system that's been rolled out for several years in China is effectively, well, they could just flip the switch and start it in the Western democracies. And all of a sudden, how do we say we're any better than, is it the Uyghur people who've been incarcerated and locked up, and ordinary Chinese people, anyone who dares to put their head above the parapet either goes into one of the internment camps or is tracked and traced, and their freedoms are limited if they don't toe the Communist Party line. So once upon a time we would have thought this is terrible things to happen, but it's only in communist countries. And I'm here to tell you that this system's being rolled out globally in all the countries that have the technological prowess to do it, and therefore all the countries where people are using the digital devices. Yeah? And increasingly, Saturn, the corporations, these mega corporations, are looking for land, money, assets and power. So as I said, I would remove your money from the banks pronto. In this very last fragment of March, there are now 4 planets in Aries, and there's clearly a bit of a fight on, and there's a whole new chapter happening. There are still 4 planets in Aquarius, but now we have Mars and Saturn together in Aquarius, and it looks like a takeover. It's very, very powerful, confronting energies that are using science, medicine or data for the control of the masses and or the masses' money. Yep, food for thought indeed. The best way to use this energy in this last few days of March is to pick up the esoteric ruler of Aries, which is Mercury, yeah, and make wise choices to do with your future and navigate away from conflict and find a path of peace forward. Okay, I think that's all I'll say for the moment. I just point you in the direction of my YouTube channel and my website. Look for the videos From Darkness to Light and other things associated with the Great Change. This has been Chandra Easton from Living in Light Star Astrology Healing. That's all. Bye for now.